What's up, guys? This is Eric with Car Talk MMA, the MMA show where a dude sits in his car and pretends like he knows what he's talking about, but really he's just a crazed fan with 2 stripes on his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu white belt and maybe 2 years of actual Muay Thai striking. But over 12 years of being a fucking fan, so that's got to count for something. I'm just starting this channel, guys. And so it is what it is. My name is Eric Simmons. Some know me as Styles Major. I've actually had some success as a musician, but this is like my serious passion, which is martial arts, and it's something I think about all the time, and it's what I like to talk about. So in this video, I wanted to talk about the return of Nick Diaz. Now, Nick and Nate Diaz, they were the first 2 guys who really got me into watching fighting. A family member of mine, I got him. He was a huge UFC fan, and I bought him season 1 of The Ultimate Fighter, and then that's where I found Nate Diaz, and I thought he was cool. And then I started following them back in the Metal Militia days, and yeah. So Nick Diaz has been gone hasn't fought in 5 or 6 years. I believe his last fight was against Anderson Silva, which was a no contest because Silva tested positive for steroids. It really was kind of a boring fight. It was really just a money fight. And then obviously Nick, around the age, I think he was 31, 32, pretty much in the prime of his career. I mean, he was taking on the top dogs only at that time. And after that crazy run in Strikeforce, basically he gets popped for marijuana, and everyone knows that the Diaz brothers smoke. And it's crazy to think now how more laxed it is, the marijuana rules. I know Kelvin Gastelum got some bull crap happening to him, but the fact that a fighter's prime, some of his prime, not all of his prime, because Nick Diaz's true prime was probably in Strikeforce, and then going into the UFC, and then, I mean, he still was in his prime, but like had been in his prime for a while. But it's just a shame to see a fighter like that, get shelved like that. And as a fan, I mean, some of us really thought that we would never see him again. I mean, he'll be 38 in August, I believe, and it's like at some point you just start thinking as a fan that, like, you're never gonna see him, and it's a shame because what he brings to this sport. I mean, he has an amazing, I think his record is like 28-8 or something like that, and his only losses were really decisions, and some of those decisions were questionable. So obviously the talk is, why was Nick Diaz at the Usman Masvidal fight? And it wasn't just a coincidence, because just like Chael Sonnen was saying on his page, like, it's hard to get Nick Diaz to go to events in his own hometown. It's hard to get Nick Diaz to do a lot of things. And I know a few times Dana wasn't even allowing him to corner his brother after that mess with Conor McGregor. But we all have been if you're a Nick Diaz fan, you've been seeing what he's been doing. He's in amazing shape. He has more muscle mass than I think I've ever seen him have. And he just looks in amazing shape. And his fight IQ at this point has to be insane. And I still think a guy like him, he takes care of his body so much, and he hasn't fought in a while. I think he is recovered. And you see a lot of these older fighters these days, like John Vakovic and Glover Teixeira, and a lot of these fighters who are, in their late 30s, some early 40s, and they're beating, super young dudes. So I feel with the nutrition and training, a lot of fighters, if they didn't take too much damage, they can really, if they're still there and they still have a chin, they can really, make for some great fights in the end of the career. And so obviously Nick Diaz was there for negotiations with Dana White. Obviously Dana White said that, they were talking right after the show. And so, that's amazing. Nick looks like he could fight tomorrow. So obviously the fight with Masvidal would be dope, but I don't think Masvidal wants to fight till like September. I mean, a fight with McGregor would be crazy if Diaz would go down to 155, or McGregor saw him at 70. But at this point in his career, you want to just see Nick Diaz in big fights. I mean, it would be cool to even see him and GSP come back and do a fight together. Or you know, I still think Nick at this point, you know, can contend with a lot of people. I think one of the fights that makes the most sense is the fight with the Kazmat Chimaev guy, because he's young. He has a huge name, and that fight would sell a lot of pay-per-views, but more importantly, it would get a lot of views, a lot of talk, a lot of hype. And so my gut tells me that that's the fight's going to happen. And of course, UFC wants to build Kazmat is it to a bigger star. So what better way to do that than book him a fight with Nick Diaz, who has a huge army of fans. And the UFC wins either way, if Kazmat wins or if Nick Diaz wins. You know, it is what it is. They're getting their nut, they're getting their money. So that's the fight. I think it's gonna happen. Those three fights that I just mentioned. So I'm super stoked about that. As far as Nate Diaz coming back, he's coming back and he's gonna fight Leon Edwards. I was a little bit surprised at that fight. Leon Edwards is a beast, and he's you know, but you know, and Nate's obviously a beast, but that tells me maybe that Nate is interested in actually going for the welterweight title, because why would he come back and face a crazy, you know, hardcore contender like Leon Edwards? You know, Leon Edwards was talking a lot of shit, and, you know, that accounts for something, but Nate likes to talk shit. Why would he go in there? And that tells me that, you know, he potentially wants to fight for some type of belt. Now at 170, I mean, I don't see anybody getting through Kamaru Usman at this moment. So then again, it might just be because he, you know, wants to kick the shit out of that guy because he was talking shit and test himself. So I see that fight happening. If he loses, you know, which even if Nate loses, it doesn't ruin his stock. Everyone loves to see those guys fight because they bring it every time, win or lose or draw. So we'll see what happens with that. With this whole lightweight thing with Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira, obviously those guys are beasts, and Michael came in and knocked out Hooker. Hooker didn't really seem like himself in that fight, and I think he was still wearing the effects of the Poirier fight, and he was a little bit timid and not himself. So I don't really know if that fight with Dan Hooker really I mean, Michael Chandler's a beast either way. He's a handful, but I would have liked to see him face another contender. I feel like it wasn't super fair for him to get a shot right away. But at the same time, I think Dustin Poirier turned it down. So I think Michael Chandler's resume is deserving. And I think he's legitimate as fuck. And I think that knockout loss to Pitbull was, well, he just got clipped. It was, and the stoppage was kind of early. So I don't really know if that fight really you know, was a dent on his record, because he really just got clipped, it looked like. But yeah, Oliveira obviously deserves it. I mean, I think the fight should have been Justin Gaethje, Oliveira, or Chandler. Justin Gaethje should have been in that fight either way. And so something tells me that maybe he turned the fight down. Obviously, Dustin Poirier if Khabib's not there, Dustin Poirier is the proven champ. And, you know, but he's getting that money fight, which is rightfully so, you know, going for that cash grab, because these fighters got to make as much as they can before it's all over. And that's what it's all about. And it's not so much, you know, more than that or less than that. But yeah, so that's how I kind of feel about that. I still feel like, you know, whoever wins that, I think Oliveira is a dark horse. I feel like not a lot of people wanted to fight him, and he's who I have winning the belt. And I actually think he's going to be a tough customer for anybody. So I think Oliveira, if he wins, I really do think he actually could maintain that lightweight belt for some time. I honestly think that Oliveira might be, now that his striking has leveled up to his grappling, I think he's the most dangerous person in the division, and I think that's why a lot of people didn't want to fight him. But we'll see what happens with that. As far as other news, we got obviously McGregor, Poirier 2. We kind of talked about that. We all kind of know what's going on there. What other fights that are noteworthy? You got Donald Cerrone and Diego Sanchez going at it. I just watched Cowboy's video last night, and he was fucking hella pissed because apparently Diego Sanchez went into a bunch of local restaurants and shit and tore down his shit, his pictures and shit, and was pretty much disrespecting Cowboy. Yeah, my hand's shaking, you guys. I have a fucking tremor, so this is gonna be a little bit of a shaky video, is what it is. But yeah. So you know, that fight's actually gonna be exciting, bro. But like, let's just be real. I mean, I like Diego Sanchez. He's an animal, but if you watch this fight against Michael Pierre, like he was getting his ass whooped, and the only reason he survived that fight was because like he you know, the DQ. But yeah, so there was that fight, and then you know, obviously his other fight he had against Chiesa got completely dominated. I think his only chance in the Cerrone fight is if he just hugs his ass. Stand up, Cerrone will knock him out, and Cerrone looks like he's training like an animal, you know. So unfortunately, I see Cerrone winning that victory by TKO because Cerrone is still way much more competitive at this point of his career, and he's getting better training, and much respect to Diego. I mean, who doesn't love the Nightmare? But I could be fucking totally wrong. Diego could go out there and do his thing with his little fucking coach Josh, you know, and they might have some type of shit under their sleeve. But all I remember is his coach saying, "Diego, crack him in the coconut, Diego. Crack him in the coconut." And at that point, I was like, okay, man, CTE might be a real thing. And speaking of CTE, let's get into that. Like, you know, freaking CTE is real. I've studied it a lot. I played football for many years, obviously, and then I've trained martial arts since I was 18 on and off. But for the last 2-3 years, more like 2, I've trained seriously, you know, full time. Jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, stuff like that, and I've done my fair share of sparring, moderate to easy, and you know, I'm very cognizant of that, and at sometimes in sparring I go a little hard, and I had to chill on that because, you know, sometimes it's just your competitiveness, and it feels good sometimes to get hit, you know. But I just watched that that video of the man who I forget the fighter's name again, but I'll try to remember and put it in the below. But basically, it was like the cost of being the king. I forget the fighter's name, but he was saying how he has lesions on his brain from you know, martial arts training, and how that affects him now. He basically has dementia, which is one of the symptoms of CTE. He has full-blown CTE. Let's just be real. His short-term memory is trashed. And I feel there's a lot of more fighters out there that are retired that have this, but they just accepted of the rules of engagement, the cost of fighting, and they kind of have the old mentality of just being dead quiet about it. But I'm glad that this guy actually spoke on about it, because there's something that needs to be done. Having CTE is not the end, but if you don't get help for it, it could be the end, you know. There's many therapies, neurological therapies, there's there's certain things that you can do to regenerate brain cells and to, you know, live with this condition and live a fair life. But it's not gonna happen unless people start speaking out. Obviously, it's amazing to see the MMA community. Most people now, when they spar, it's just touch sparring, never hard to the head. You see a lot of rules in football changing, and yeah, as a fan, we all love the violent KOs and shit like that, and the hardcore hits. But at the end of the day, guys, like, these people are humans. They're getting, you know, and at least in the NFL, people are getting compensated, and they're actually making that sport a lot more soft. In MMA, I mean, you're still getting brutally knocked out, and a lot of and shots after getting knocked out. And not all of these fighters are being compensated. Most of them aren't. 99% of them are. You know, and is what it is. That's just the way the UFC model is. There's no union, and that's just how it's going to be, unfortunately. And so these fighters need to protect themselves the best they can. But CTE is a real thing, and you're seeing a lot of old school fighters, you know, show up with these symptoms, and I mean, you have living guys. Like, I mean, Diego Sanchez got CAT scans and all that, and they're saying he's fine. Maybe it's true. I think Diego's always been a little bit nutty. So, you know what I mean? But BJ Penn, the drinking, the knockouts, and all that stuff. And, you know, CT is a real thing. And I just really hope that the next generation of fighters learns from this generation that are, in their 40s and 50s now, and they continue to preserve and keep themselves safe so the sport we love can continue to go on. So that's all I got to really say about that, guys. But we're in the goddamn car, and we talking, man. I love talking about MMA, man. So here we are. So those are kind of the things I really want to talk about that's been on my mind. Obviously, Kamaru Usman is looking amazing. Trevor Whitman is a wizard. The things he's done with Justin Gaethje and Rose, and now Kamaru, and many other fighters, actually, even Bisping later in his career. It goes to show, what's going on. And I would love at this point to see Kamaru Usman actually. He's going through the welterweights, so I would like to see him move up. It would be cool to see him fight. Israel Adesanya or Robert Whittaker, or something like that. Or even, I even think he could fight. He's a big guy, but I wouldn't want to see him go any more than up to like middleweight, but or he can just continue to just be a home wrecker and welterweight. GSP could try to come back and fight him, but GSP don't want none of that. Nick Diaz could come. That's a fight that could be made. Nick Diaz. I wouldn't put it past the UFC for Nick Diaz to come out of his his hiatus and get an immediate title shot. Why not? But if Nate Diaz gets through Leon Edwards, we'll see that. But I think Leon Edwards is the clear-cut next contender. And I think it's going to be a really competitive fight, and especially because Leon's been able to study his body of work. And I see Leon beating Nate, even though I love Nate. But if Nate, I wouldn't put it past Nate that Nate could win that fight. But yeah, and as far as Poirier, Conor 2, I still think Dustin Poirier gets that shit done, that fight. I think Dustin Poirier gets that win again. And I think he gets the immediate title shot. And it's going to be Charles Oliveira and him battling it out, who's going to retain that title for a while. It's going to be a fucking gauntlet. It's just going to be like the strawweight division, when you had Rose and Joanna and Wang Zhili and Jessica Andrade kind of changing the belt. I think that's what the lightweight division is going to be until we get another clear-cut champion like Khabib was that can dominate for a long time. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And then obviously with the Jake Paul situation, I think Jake Paul is genius with his marketing. He's got the MMA community against him. I don't like the guy. He's very arrogant and stuff, but I don't know the guy personally, so I'm not going to even judge him on that level. But I think what he's doing is brilliant, and it's bringing eyes to him. He's not dumb. He obviously knows that if he got in a cage with some of these guys, he would get torn apart. But he does have legitimate boxing skills. He's been training hard. And what people got to understand is when you have the access to the resources Jake Paul does, and you could get trained by people who have years and years of knowledge and mastery, you can get really good very fast, especially if you have the genetics and mindset. And Jake Paul does. And I think his power is legitimate. I think his skill is legitimate. But, at the end of the day, if he went up against, a real contender, come on, we know what's going to happen. But these money fights are genius. It's smart for him. It's something fun for him to do. So I think it's funny, and I think it's actually great for MMA because Jake Paul has a huge audience, and it's just keeping things crazy for everyone. And DC's getting pissed and putting his finger in his face, and I think it's good for the sport. So I'm not mad at any of that. I'm trying to think if there's any other news that I wanted to talk about. I think kind of that's it, you guys. So I'm going to wrap up this episode. What is it, 20 minutes? This is the first episode of MMA Talk. Car Talk MMA, my bad. That's the name, where somebody pretends they know what the fuck they're talking about. I may know what the fuck I'm talking about. I don't know. I just love fucking talking about sports. And I just kind of want to make this channel and this page for fucking just fucking MMA fucking fans who really love MMA, but not casual fans, like fucking fanatic people, where we can get on here and fucking just talk shit and have a community, and just do our thing. And for me, I'm fucking recording in my car because I don't have a podcast set up at my house. And so I was like, you know, I'm just going to film it in my car. So, and I don't really think anyone has any channel like this. So maybe we have something here. Anyways, guys, this is Zarek. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe, hit like, comment below. Let me know what you think about all the shit I just talked about. You know, let me know your opinions on all the topics I just talked about. And go ahead and hit the notifications bell because I'm going to be putting a shitload of content out. So thank you guys for tuning in and have a good day.